Everybody find your seats, please. And as a reminder, would you please turn off or silence your cell phone or leave it outside or whatever. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out in the rain to attend the Skokie Plan Commission meeting for October 19th. First order of business is to take the attendance. Commissioner Osley?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Manchella?
Present.
Commissioner Scott Berman?
Present.
Commissioner Franklin is absent. Commissioner Gupta is absent. Commissioner Giovannaho? Present. Commissioner Jeff Berman is absent. Commissioner Matei is absent. And I am present. And we do have a quorum of 5 members present. So, moving forward. First order of business to approve the minutes for the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Berman, second by Commissioner Giovannaho. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting minutes have been approved. We have 2 cases tonight. Case 2023 -28P, parking determination at 9230 Lotus Avenue, and related case 2023-29P, site plan approval also at 9230 Lotus Avenue. Okay. I am in receipt of letters commenting on the site plan approval. And one comment is that, I'm sorry, basically, why would the Plan Commission approve this? Let me tell you, I've been chair for a number of years, and I've gone through a lot of these group home site plan approvals. And basically, the village has to allow the homes to go through. They're cited by federal law. It's part of the housing project, fair housing. And our job tonight is basically to see that they meet all the present codes. They don't exceed occupancy, per square footage, and other requirements that we set forth to make sure that the home is safe. Essentially, we cannot stop these homes from going in. I understand your criticisms tonight, your comments tonight, but basically, our hands are tied. So, moving forward, who's going to present the case for the parking determination?
Tell them there's a public comment.
It is a public hearing, so you can understand what's going on and hear the process
And comment.
and comment. The comments will go to the record, but we cannot,
It's a done deal.
well,
It's a done deal.
according to federal law, it is, yes.
Why wouldn't we then,
Right. So let me,
It's not your turn yet. Please sit down. First, I'm gonna have the petitioner come up and present its case.
But tell them all they'll have a chance to talk. They don't know they have a chance to talk.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, the petitioner will come up, present their case, and then I'll have the staff, give us its report, then I will open the floor up for public comments. Okay, good evening.
Good
Have your
evening.
name and,
I'm Marlene Hodges. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer and probably Chief Operating Officer and just about whatever else non-program for Orchard Village. I've been with the agency for 12 years.
okay, before you proceed, raise your right hand.
Oh,
Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you?
amen, I do.
And Counselor, as the notice has been properly served?
Yes, notice is proper and correct in both cases.
Thank you. Yes.
Orchard Village is an agency that has been in existence since 1972. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary, spent a whole year doing it. It was founded by a group of families who had a common concern about their children who had developmental disabilities and what happens to the children after the parents are no longer able to care for them. So 50 years ago, the parents bought a house on a little cul-de-sac, Marmora, and then bought the house. It was a 6-flat right next door to it. They were both owned by the same owner. The people across the street, there were all of 4 other houses on the cul-de-sac. It's in the middle of nowhere, kind of backing up to District 219 and Niles West. The Niles West soccer field is on one side, and District 219 is on the other side, and then there are factories behind us. In any event, the agency started, or the parents bought the 6-flat and the house, and started an organization to take care of their children after they were no longer able to do so. The other 4 houses were upset with what was moving into the neighborhood. Oh gosh. And in relatively short order, Orchard Village acquired all of the houses on the cul-de-sac. There were not many, and a 6-flat. And provided safe housing for this group of, I think it initially might have been 20 young people with developmental disabilities. It is 50 years later, and we have still a number of those same people. The youngest son of the founder is still with us. It is obviously 52 years later, and he is, I want to say, 74 years old and in frail health. Orchard Village has taken very good care of the people that we've been charged with that no one else wants to take care of. We view our mission as a ministry almost, if you will. My word, not the agency's. It is non-denominational, but of genuinely providing safe housing, good housing, all of the services that people with assorted disabilities need. We are a good landlord. Basically, I'm the landlady, and I'm in the houses often. I get very, very few complaints from anyone, period, from any of our houses. We have a dozen houses and we get very few complaints. The house that, it has been part of the agency's mission over the years. When we first started, it'd be a long story, the agency bought some houses in Skokie. Their Skokie houses are small. Your 3-bedroom, bath and a half. The math we're funded by the state of Illinois. The math of running a 24-hour, you're having staff 24 hours to make sure that people were safe, well cared for, food was prepared, laundry done, all of that stuff, took them to the doctors, etc. But for the staff, the only way the math worked, because we were so underfunded, was to put 6 or 8 people in a 3-bedroom, bath and a half house. No one wants to share a bedroom anymore. You don't want to share a bedroom with a stranger. I wouldn't want to share a bedroom with a stranger. It has been our board's hope that we could, over time, move from the smaller houses to afford private bedrooms for all of our residents, and is hopefully not more than 3 people, 4 at the most, sharing a bathroom, giving them the same respect and courtesy that you would expect for yourselves. Also as a generalization, the Orchard Village residents, that while we have some who have been with us for 30 or 40 or 50 years, they tend to be higher functioning, but now they're getting older. We need to be cognizant that an older person is not able to walk upstairs. They need some accommodations. I hate to tell you how many hours, days, weeks, months I personally have spent looking for houses, like within a 5-mile radius, that would help serve the needs of some of our clients who've been with us for 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 years, who are now no longer able to walk upstairs, and to really look for as many cases of handicap accessible houses as there are. We found this house on Lotus. It was, I guess, owned by a World War II veteran who had been disabled in the war. His son was delighted that this house that was originally his father's, who was disabled, would go to people with disabilities. Orchard Village likes this house, and I think you can all hear me well enough without looking at a microphone. We are using it as a 6-bedroom house for 6 ladies. Several of the ladies are really getting up there. There are 2 bedrooms on the south side. We're converting what most recently was a library, but according to the original plans was an exercise room with pulleys and pull bars or something, I guess for the Mr. Hess, who was the disabled owner. And then the upstairs has 3 bedrooms, 2 much larger ones and another one. 3 bedrooms and 3 baths. Nearly all of our residents go somewhere during the day. They go to day programs, and typically a PACE bus would come and pick them up and they go somewhere. They get out of the house Monday through Friday from 8:30 till 2:30, 3 o'clock. From probably 2:30 in the afternoon until 9 o'clock the following morning, the house is fully staffed. If one of our residents needs to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever, there may be some coming or going, but not significant. Occasionally their family members visit. Maybe not as much as we would like family members to come, but sometimes their family members come by and visit them or take them out more often. Any event, that's what we want to do. Orchard Village spent, this was really pushing the budget of our commitment to try to find a handicap accessible house. This house was owned by a handicapped World War II veteran, and it stayed in the family for something like 70 years, and that's my story.
Okay. Any questions of the position? Commissioner Berman?
A couple of questions. In prior years when we've discussed Orchard Village or other places, and I just want to bring these things out and ask you those questions, we were concerned, and the neighbors might be concerned, to know that there will not be a disability bus parked in front or on the driveway of the house 24/7. Is that
There
correct?
will not be a disability bus, period. Most, or our houses typically have a minivan to take the residents out, to take them grocery shopping, to take them to a doctor's appointment or a beauty shop or whatever. It's a minivan. To get a wheelchair van, we have a few of them. They're very expensive, and there's, at this point, no need for a wheelchair van. But a wheelchair van for us is a van that you take the back seats out.
But even that is never going to be a bus. It's only one vehicle. You're not going to park multiple of those buses
No.
or vehicles, even
No.
if it were a disability vehicle.
That's true. We can't afford them.
That's fine. Next question. When visitors come, the neighbors usually don't want there to be a institutional feel to this house, such that there's always visitors of all of the people all the time. I think you explained that doesn't happen. If you're lucky enough to get a visitor, it is per person.
The sad thing about people with developmental disabilities, okay, some family members support them in various ways, and they're an active part of the person's family. But more often than not, it's really kind of sad as to, okay, for Thanksgiving, how many dinners do we have to prepare, because nobody's going anywhere. So yeah, the number of visitors is really not that many.
And the other concern that neighbors have raised in past cases are the exterior of the house. Are you changing it in any significant way or any way at all that would reflect this as an institutional use as opposed to a simple, single-family residential use?
No, we are not planning any changes to affect the exterior of the house. One of the first phone calls I got was that a large limb fell down. I then brought a our landscaper over, and we assessed all of the trees. The limb that fell down was very high. It's hard to say. Why did a major limb toward the, 20 feet up in the air fall down? That's a dangerous thing. Kind of looking at the trees. Is there any danger? I'm very concerned about danger of what can fall down. The tree appears to be healthy. The landscaper said the tree looks healthy. So why did the limb fall down? To look at all of the trees, safety first, always safety first, and then aesthetically what makes sense. There were 3 trees in very close proximity to the back door, to the back of the house. One was a ready-looking evergreen that was reaching the gutters. The second 2 were very large trees, large diameter, and they were crowding out each other. The one that was farther east was more over the roof of the house than the other. I am bothered by trees that lean significantly, and lean significantly over a house, or unless it's way in the middle of the backyard. So we took the 2 trees out. There were some arborvitae in the backyard that were growing very peculiarly, that they fell down some years ago and kind of were still growing peculiarly. We removed those. We cleaned up the yard, reseeded it, put in,
Okay.
But just to finish, so other than vegetation that you're describing, you're not making any changes to the exterior brick or siding of the house?
no,
Thank you.
Okay, at this present site, you do have a landscaping contract with that comes in and takes care of the
Yes.
exterior vegetation, everything?
And then
Yes.
one more question. There's always 1 or 2 staff people on site 24/7?
anytime a client is home. If there is no one home, there's no one home. But if there is a client home, there is a staff person there. If they go out, they go out.
And what is the maximum number of staff people that will be there at any one time?
I can't afford more than 2.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, if you don't have anything else to present, I will ask the staff to come up and present a report. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the parking determination first, and then we'll move on to the site plan.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman Luke. My name is Jose Acosta. I'm the Planning Division Coordinator here at the Village of Skokie. And I'd like to ask the staff report to be accepted into the record as written.
So granted.
This case, as mentioned, is regarding cases 2023-28P for parking determination and 2023-29P for site plan approval of a congregate living facility for 6 residents at 9230 Lotus Avenue. And I also just like to remind everyone that the Plan Commission is an advisory board to the Board of Trustees. However, regarding case 2023-28P, the Plan Commission makes a final decision for the parking determination, and all discussions regarding parking requirements end here at the Plan Commission.
So they said they only have 1 vehicle, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there a garage there? I mean, will they use the garage?
There's a 2-car garage. And as Marlene mentioned, none of the residents who live there will be driving themselves. So at any given time, there will be Orchard Village van and possibly a staff member vehicle. And those 2 vehicles can be stored in the 2-car garage. There's also a large driveway that can accommodate at least 4 parking spaces, having providing a total of 6 off-street parking spaces for the location.
So that'd be enough for visitors.
Yes,
Okay.
4 extra spaces.
Any questions on the parking determination case? Okay, thank you. On to the site plan.
So as Marlene mentioned, the home is currently a 5-bedroom site, and as we can see on the floor plan, they plan to convert the library space here to an additional bedroom. And this is to accommodate the 6 residents who are moving from a separate location into a home that can better accommodate their needs as they are growing older and their physical needs are changing. They're facing greater physical challenge, I should say. Let's see. And in general, the site plan approval is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan and zoning for the site. Staff recommends that the comprehensive plan and zoning, staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a site plan approval be approved based upon the proposed finding of fact and subject to the following recommended site plan approval condition. And that would be, prior to the hearing before the Board of Trustees, the petitioner must submit to the Planning Division a PIN consolidation form for the 2 parcels that it currently owns and the required filing fees. And also what I would like to mention and kindly request that the recommended site plan approval conditions 2 and 3 be omitted from the staff report. Regarding the second condition of the resubmittal of the site and floor plans per the Fire Prevention Bureau's request, the planning department does not require any additional documentation at this time, and we will defer this decision to the permit application process. And finally, the third condition regarding the code enforcement violation has been addressed by the petitioner and approved by a village property standards inspector.
So the fire department did look at the site and made its recommendations?
Yes,
Okay.
and they are requiring updated site plan with sprinkler system, but at this time, we aren't enforcing that. That would be deferred to the permit application process.
Okay, very good. Any questions of the staff on the site plan? Yes?
Is this, requiring, sorry, this doesn't require a zoning change, does it?
No, it's
So if
consistent.
down the line, this property gets sold off again, it would still be zoned as residential?
Yes, ma'am.
Any
And
other questions?
just a question about the fire code. You said that's pushed now to the building enforcement and code enforcement division, so there cannot be occupancy until all of those fire
That's-
conditions are
yeah.
met?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, very good. Thank you. Nice report. Can I have the petitioner come back up, please? Okay, so you've gone over the staff report and everything. Is there anything in the report that you have a question about or have a comment on?
No, I'm fine with it. We're waiting on a permit to convert the library to a bedroom. After that's finished, then we will apply for the sprinkler system. You need the walls in place in order to run the pipes. After the sprinkler system's in, then we'll have to apply for a permit for a smoke alarm system. The sprinkler system has to be in before the smoke alarm system is in. After all of that's in, then we would get, hopefully, have inspection from the village of Skokie. Then we need inspection from the state fire marshal, above and beyond the Skokie fire marshal. And then after that, approval, an inspection and approval by the Illinois Bureau of Licensure and Accreditation.
Okay. On the fire alarm system, is it monitored by the fire department too, and also Orchard Village?
It's a radio controlled, yes.
Yes, but are you monitoring it too?
Yes.
Orchard Village, okay, thank you. Any further questions of the petitioner? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, the floor is open to anyone who has a question or comment. I have a sign-up list here. I'm gonna ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. And, first one on the list is Marlene Hodges.
It's
that's you. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Selma Zerkaniak, is that right? Selma? Okay. Eric Anderson, is that right? Do you wanna come up and comment? Yes. Please come up to the podium, give us your name and address.
Eric Anderson, 9250 Lotus.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Eric Anderson, 19.
Point it up, point it up. It works.
9250
I mean-
Lotus.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So I guess initially I did have, I'm a contractor, and I did have, got a lot of answers from you guys. Scott was asking some really good questions on explaining things to us, as this process is obviously new to the neighborhood. As for the, I guess I had a few more other questions here.
Yes, sir, your time is working, it's clicking
I
out.
know, I got my 3 minutes in, right?
Why don't you come back when he's ready?
In regards
You wanna-
to the tree that fell, I'm one of the neighbors, and I was the person that actually photographed the tree as it fell, or the morning it did fall. And I happened to notice that that tree was on the owner's side of the sidewalk, not on the parkway between the sidewalk and the street. So I was surprised to see that the Skokie Township was the one that cleaned up the tree when that fell. I guess it was on the sidewalk, so I could consider it, hazardous to the other members of the neighborhood. But I heard the petitioner mention that the landscaper was the one that cleaned up that tree that fell in the front yard.
Okay.
Excuse me for a point of clarification, the landscaper came and said he had to get a different truck, and when he came back with a different truck and equipment to lift it, one of the other neighbors had already called the village, and the village had moved it, so.
I can explain that. If a tree falls and it's as a consequence of a storm, it's common practice to clear the public way. So if a tree is infringing upon free movement on sidewalks, that could have an impact on emergency response, that is determined critical, and if the vehicles are available, they will clear that area.
Yeah, as I said, it was over the sidewalk, so just trying to get, clarification. So as a neighbor, I guess I've noticed traffic of, city officials, the sign on the tree. And I've seen, the landscapers, the tree work, contractors going through. All of that work that they're doing, I guess, isn't a part of the permit process. So as for, the work that they are doing, I guess fire suppression and moving walls, they would be filing permits for all that work, correct?
Correct.
Because as of one of the letters that was sent out to some of the other neighbors, they said newly renovated bathroom. So I guess that would be a part of the permit as well, because you have the brochure that they sent us. Guess I'm just coming to you guys as the contractor point of view. As for, there is a side lot to this residence, and I'm not quite sure if it is buildable or not. As for, this is one of Orchard Village's biggest homes with these patrons. Would that side lot be added onto with more structure in the future, and could they
That could be a future
increase-
case, but right now, that's not part of this case.
Okay, understood. As for, I do think that they do have a very nice yard and side yard, so I think that would work well for the residents.
Okay, so your time is pulling up.
Am I 3 minutes up? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dean Ranchowski, Chugger, it's hard to read your hand, I'm sorry. Could you just give us your name when you come up?
I'm Dean Rauschwerger. I am the adjoining property owner at 9222 North Lotus. That house on Lotus is one of the oldest houses in the village of Skokie. It's approximately 100 years old. They built in the 1920s. Lotus Avenue, matter of fact, pre-exists the village of Skokie. It's been here since early the 1920s or earlier, when Skokie was Niles Center. So who am I? I'm the adjoining property owner, my wife here, Nina, and here are the neighbors. And this is an amazing turnout, especially on a rainy day. But at the outset, Mr. Lukey, I do want to kind of point something out. I am a little bit dismayed that you're trying to limiting us needlessly to 3 minutes when you give the petitioner no limited time to speak.
That is because the petitioner, this is their petitioner's meeting, they pay for the time.
We are the taxpayers, and
I understand that, I understand that.
I'm not here to.
But I'm not here to discuss that with you. You have 3 minutes.
Here's the bottom line. We applaud Orchard Village. Noble work, good work, but for the grace of God go you and I. Okay? So that we have nothing about the mission of Orchard Village. This is really unrelated. The regulation that comes in play, because what Orchard Village seeks to do, it is not a matter of right. It is really a matter of discretion. If it wasn't a matter of discretion, they wouldn't be before this commission, nor ultimately before the board. So what does the regulation say? And that is the rules of the road. The regulation says that it shall be located to enable individuals to be integrated into the community. And what's the standard? There's some objective criteria here. It shall not appreciably alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. What does that mean? Shall not appreciably alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. Obviously, the neighborhood is charming and quiet, okay? This residence itself, there were 2 people in that house for approximately 20 years. Before that, for 40 years, it was a most of 4 people. They had 2 children. You're now taking a house with two residents that were there for 20 years to 8 to 10 people being in the house. That's a 5-fold, 500% increase. On Lotus Avenue itself, most of the houses are 1 or 2 people. Maybe on the average, you got 3 people.
Sir, would you speak into the microphone?
Sure. So we're talking about an increase in density, okay? And if you look at urban planning, community development, you're looking at what is the characteristics of the neighborhood. One of the criteria is density. This is a drastic change for the neighborhood.
Well, wait a minute. This is a 5-bedroom house. Let's say a husband and wife, they have 3 kids. That's 5 people already. So how can you say that it's overdense? This is only 6 people.
Chairman Luke, in the neighborhood itself, let's talk about, if you want, not hypothetically, but in the neighborhood itself, if you went up and down Lotus and did a factual survey investigation, and what is the density on Lotus? What's the density on Linder?
What do you do when a family has 14 kids?
14 kids?
Yeah, if they would have 14 kids, would you say that's overdense? You gonna throw kids out?
But we're talking
No,
about.
no, we're talking about residential homes here.
Mr.
If
Chairman
it's a, you're talking density. You're saying that you're against the families who have more than 2 or 3 children is overdense?
Well, Chairman Lukey, let me ask you this then, please. When the regulation says, and there's 2 factors that it's important to consider. It shall not appreciably alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. Can you identify any scenario where it would?
It's not altering any characteristics of the
Okay,
neighborhood.
so and you've come to a.
I differ with you on that.
Having discussed this many times with other homes in the community, it has to do with the exterior appearance and the quantity of cars and vehicles. If the quantity of cars resembles the rest of the neighborhood and the exterior does not change it institutionally, then the character of the neighborhood is not altered. The number of people in a house is permitted by code to fit the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. So a 5-bedroom house in Skokie, or 4-bedroom previously, or 6-bedroom to be, is allowed to have as many occupants as will fit into a 5-bedroom multi-bathroom house. And that's the character of the neighborhood is not determined by the number of people in the house. That's the argument you and Paul are engaged in. That's not the question. It's all about the exterior appearance not being institutional and the number of vehicles not overparking the neighborhood.
Well, the code also talks about and mentions an important word, isolating 3 times, okay? That
You're
excuse me.
Excuse me, Unfortunately, your time is up. But is this your wife who's coming up or a
No,
relative?
Professor Luke, you engaged me, and I
I
wanted.
did,
want to finish-
and I gave you extra time for that.
I would like an extra 5 minutes. With
No,
your
you
discretion.
get an extra 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir, for your graciousness. The code talks about that it should not be isolating to the individuals. You used the word isolating 3 times. Now, part of the commission you spoke about where the bus service is on golf, there's not even a sidewalk to walk to golf. Even if you're mentally challenged or developmentally challenged, this is not accessible. Really, in terms of location for the residents, this should be in downtown Skokie. We have access to the library, public services. No one realistically is going to take the bus on Golf or Dempster. It wouldn't even be safe. So the code talks about 2 criteria: not appreciably alter the characteristics of the neighborhood and shall not be isolating. 2 important criteria. Okay? And what it gives me pause is that it feels as if this has become a little bit of a rubber stamp. And I'll share with you, even before it's got approval, there's been a contractor in the home 7 days a week doing work, kind of presumptuous, okay? Before they got approval, they've gotten the green light. So I don't know, Professor Lukey, integrity is important, the citizens are important, we're stakeholders, we're taxpayers, we're not against Orchard Village. We're talking about, is this the appropriate location for suitability? Does it alter the characteristics of the neighborhood? To me, I disagree with you. I think density is a factor, okay? They took down a 100-year-old oak tree that was strong and healthy on a weekend. There was no bond, no approval. Who takes, if we were in Evanston, Glenview, Wilmette, that would have been a pause moment. So they came in and removed trees. When did they bring an arborist in? Did they have to evaluate it? Did they need to remove a branch? A tree in the back of the house, a 100-year-old oak tree, okay? Does that affect the characteristics of the neighborhood? Was that a rush to remove something needlessly? Did someone pause and go to the village or the neighbors and say, whatever? But you removed a 100-year-old oak tree that's been there for 100 years. That gives us pause. I think I met some of the contractors. They seem to be fine people.
I need to have some, to move on.
I guess the bottom line I'll share with you is that it's very important that it's the first time I've come to the village for this kind of thing. It's important that we should feel that we can get out a day at the hearing and be heard. And Professor Lukey, when you said from the moment one that it's kind of a done deal, and it is a done deal, that is candidly dismaying and troubling.
It sounds troubling, yes, it sounds troubling. We've had many of these group homes come before us. And it's under the Equal Housing Act, through HUD, and basically, our hands are tied.
The regulations provide certain
It
objective
doesn't,
criteria.
it trumps regulations.
So I disagree with that.
Well, you can talk.
The regulations provide certain criteria.
You could go to federal court and talk about it.
If that's the case, then what evaluation do you undertake here? Where's the scrutiny?
Because it has to go through the special use process.
And it goes back to those questions that I was asking earlier. If it changes the external character of the house related to the neighborhood, but I don't want to take any more of your time.
But a poor point. Part of the criteria.
Let me tell you this. We're not ramming this down your throat. We're just following federal law.
And judging, we do have that small judgmental interest in making sure that it doesn't look like an institution suddenly plunked into your resident, or yours
Right,
and
we
our
make sure that
residential
they
neighborhood.
install the fire system that's required, that they have adequate parking, that they maintain the property, but under federal law, we can't do anything.
Part of your internal criteria.
No,
Excuse me.
no. Can I have someone else come up, please? Who's next? Nina?
There's a gentleman who didn't have a chance to put his name on the list. He just came in.
All right,
I
well,
think you should have an
let me go
opportunity.
down the list. There's a Nina, is that a relative of yours, your wife?
Yes, it
I'm
is.
his wife.
Okay.
Can I talk next?
Yes.
I have to say.
At the microphone.
The reason for the microphone is that it's recorded, and if you're speaking out there, then it's not recorded.
I'm Nina Rauschberger. I'm next door. I've seen you, I know. We've seen each other. First of all, I'm really disgusted to hear, I've been here once before for a zoning thing, that you would say to us, we cannot stop this. we have to allow this. Why are we here?
Because it still has to go through the
This is
special use.
like-
It
this is
still
like
has, no, it still has
it's
to go
like
through the
stupid.
process.
Pardon?
It still has to go through the process.
And I-
If they came to us and said, we're gonna tear down this house and build a 3-story square block building, like you might see a Jewish community center or a school, we would then have the right to disapprove of that because it would not integrate into the community. They are not saying that, and nor have other group homes that have come to Skokie. They are saying they're leaving it to look like the exact house that it was prior, except maybe for some foliage, which perhaps they should or should not have taken down. But otherwise, they're not building this monolithic building. So anyway, that's the answer to the question of what are we doing? We're making sure they keep the neighborhood character.
What is the maximum number of residents that will reside in the house?
I
That's
believe
my
it's
question.
6.
Not 8, 6?
No, it'll be 6.
And how do we know that? How will we,
Well,
how
well,
will
we-
we know that?
Through the permit process, we go through it. And we
There's some
inspect,
kind of,
the health department inspects these.
okay,
group
so
homes.
you believe that there would be a
We-
maximum of 6 residents?
They've always been honest about
And you
that.
believe, plus the workers, I mean, someone has to sleep there at night, right?
Right.
So that person would need a bed or something, so possibly 7 people at night,
Correct.
correct? I mean, that would probably
stated condition?
be it. So.
It's in the stated conditions.
So, the other thing I have to say is, I would really like to know what is the special relationship between Orchard Village and, no, seriously, I would like to know. I've had a tree fall on my property, I did not see 4 Skokie trucks show up at 11 o'clock. In 15 minutes, 4 guys came out of those trucks, went and cleaned up that, I saw it, I'm a witness, okay, I'm not making this up. What is the special relationship? Because I like that relationship when a tree falls on my property.
We do not have that information. We
Do
couldn't.
you have a
we-
special
no.
relationship that we don't know anything about?
Let me put it this way, the plan commission does not.
Well, something special happened and
Well,
my
then
eyeballs
it's not
witnessed
us.
Make an inquiry.
it. Okay, so
You can
I'm
call.
not lying, because I
I
have no
would,
reason
I
to
would, I
lie.
would talk to the village manager.
Well, good luck with that. I'm just disappointed about this whole thing.
Thank you.
Well said.
Next, we have Stephen Poultry.
I don't have much to say, but I do have a question, because regarding what the, my name is Stephen Polly, I live at.
Please at the microphone.
I live at 5440 Foster, which is between Linder and Lewis. Now, before you guys talked about the buses on this house, everything is good parking, why didn't you do that to the house that currently resides on Linder with the special needs people? Because there's not parking there, and there's a bus that parks in that street for up to 2 hours at one time. So can you answer me that? Because you didn't do your due diligence to that house.
We're,
9200 on Linder.
I don't know anything about that. You'll have to,
And that's troubling.
But you're allowing this house, but the house that was done 10 years ago, nobody in the neighborhood knew that that house was gonna be housed by these people. Not that I'm against it, but my problem is, what you said earlier, was the parking. You said, was there gonna be parking? Why wasn't that done to that house?
what I meant was, I'm not aware of any issues
Can
that
you
are
check
there
on
now.
it? Can you check on it?
We're good.
You will?
Yeah.
Mr. Foley, what's that address of that house?
I think it's
Well, look into
9223.
that.
It was not identified in the recommendation from Jose Acosta on the closest seal of, home. And that's also disappointing.
And like I said, my biggest problem is that I have to travel down.
By the
Linder.
way, locations of group homes is private. We cannot disclose where the homes are.
No,
It's on Linder.
that's
it's
not my
fine.
complaint. My complaint was, what you're doing here is great. But what was done to that house on Linder wasn't, because the parking is not there for people to visit
Well,
people.
we'll look into
There's
that.
no bus, and like I said, when I come home and I travel down Linder, I gotta back up a half a block to get to my house, because that bus will not move.
Okay, I would just point out that we're a plan commission that
We-
reviews
The
proposals and
cases
changes. What you're talking about is enforcement. The enforcement division is out those doors and down the hallway, and they review and enforce building codes. They would be the body to investigate. As was indicated in the report, an inspector has been in contact with this particular property. So if there's something that is concerning, any citizen of Skokie has the ability to call and communicate with the
And
building
I have
department.
just-
No, I understand it, but what I'm saying is, they had to come to this commission to get that house. Why wasn't the same things discussed? Because
They
if it
c-
was,
they-
We weren't
you were not
commissioners
allowed-
10 years ago, so we
This
can't
is
tell
different.
you.
that was my
And,
point.
and I've asked the department to look into that, okay?
Thank you.
Helen Suris?
Hi, my name is Helen Saris. I live at 9315 Linder. And I just had something Ms. Hodgkins said earlier gave me a little pause. And she mentioned that, you know, when they first started out, they bought a 6-story house and then they bought the second, house. Is that what we're going to expect later on? Is that what you're planning for our neighborhood as well? Buying this house and then buying maybe another house and maybe going on and on? I mean, because we already have, again, one home that's like that, now we're gonna have a second home. Is that gonna change the appearance of the neighborhood? Is that block all going to be, facilities and homes, that are not,
Well, we do have limits as far as spacing on the group homes.
You just said you didn't know whether they.
No, we have
You mean spacing as in?
within a certain radius.
Right, but, so we have a new one coming in, and then we have the other one on, Linder, and,
So I can speak to
and
that a little bit.
Emerson.
So I'm not,
So how is that spacing?
Just,
Yeah.
so I'm not certain of the 9200 Linder, how that's categorized. This is specifically talking about in the code, it's referenced as congregate living facilities. So that's this type of use that we're speaking about and the application is for. So those uses have a 800-foot distance. They cannot be closer than 800 feet from one another. So that's what we looked into and what confirmed, that there isn't another congregate living facility within
And
800
The house
feet.
that I was talking about is 1,400 feet.
Okay.
And
There
then,
you
and again, in the future, I guess, we're all very concerned, we've kind of lost our say in what's going on in our neighborhood. Who's to say that in, 2 or 3 years, they don't decide, oh, I think we need to take a few more residents, we're gonna build up on this house, and now we're gonna have an extra 6 residents, and,
So I can speak to
because
that.
it's a large
They would
lot.
have, they would have to
Speak to
come
that
back,
too.
they would have to come back to us.
you have to come back.
Besides that,
But
there's
yeah.
a limit per the state's regulations, I believe, that there are a maximum in these types of congregate living facilities of
Of what?
8 residents.
Of 8 residents, so it could never have more than 8 residents.
No, 6.
6?
Chairman Lukey said 6.
No,
Well,
the
this one-
maximum
We're talking
is
about
8.
this
If
a
a- if the house is-
proposal, sorry, go ahead.
No, with the state limit is 8, provided that the space is available for 8. This house is slated for 6 people. They're not gonna do that.
If they came back to us and noticed the community, presumably, they could do that. They could move up to 8 by lots of construction and lots of permitting. That would not be economically viable, but it's possible. Yes, and then you would all come back and we could talk about whether 8 is as good as 6 and whether that works. But we can't say maybe it can crawl or creep to 8. The other thing I was gonna mention, because of the 800-foot rule, which is a little less than a block, that radius is enforced, even though it's private as to who owns what, not-for-profits or not. So that congregate living cannot consume your area. And that was something that we did discuss, and so did the trustees some years ago, to make sure that the neighborhood character wasn't affected. Even though the exterior of the homes wasn't, we didn't want an all congregate living block.
So that's changed since they originally bought those homes in Skokie then, where they bought that whole neighborhood?
Very much so. That was long before all of us. That was done in the 50s and 60s. It backed up to an industrial area behind the Niles West athletic fields. Yes, very different.
Because, I mean, we're not an industrial area, we're a neighborhood, we're a
Right.
family neighborhood. We've been in the neighborhood for 30 years, I've raised my children there. I mean, and, I'd hate to see that neighborhood really change.
But the reason for the
drastically.
federal and the state laws was so that we could integrate disabled adults into our neighborhood fabric. So it's something good that we're doing, as long as it isn't overwhelming a neighborhood in either parking or exterior appearance.
Exactly, but what you also have to understand is the neighborhood has to, in order to integrate them, the neighborhood has to want
Okay.
that, so.
All right.
Okay, but thank you.
Right, thank you. Michelle Hammond? Good
Hi, I'm
evening.
Michelle Hammond, I live at 9215 Linder Avenue. I have a little bit of a different viewpoint. I work with special education kids. I've worked as a coordinator for several years, so I have a different understanding. I understand that these residents are children and young adults and older adults need to live someplace. They have to go somewhere. I understand that. So my concern more is I'm really pleased that the house is not gonna change on the outside. I was worried that you were gonna change the garage into living spaces, and that would take away parking, so I'm happy to hear that's not gonna happen. I'm more worried, like on the weekends, that they'll be walking through the neighborhoods, and as we back out of our driveways, that, they're not aware of their own safety, or our safety, and how that will proceed. So I'm more concerned about that. Could you address that? Could that be a question that could be answered?
Not right now. We can have the petitioner come up in a minute.
Okay, and that's pretty much my only really concern about that, is their own personal safety on the weekends and how that, not how it will look in the neighborhood at all, but their safety of my backing out of my driveway. I already had to cut the fence back and do all the concerns of the safety planning commission that way, so how the concern will look that way. And is there gonna be a signage in front of the building? I would say no, but
No, there won't be any signs.
I didn't think so. All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
David Hammond.
That was a question.
Oh, okay. Steve Anderson? And so you wanted to come up too, right?
So my name is Steve Anderson. I am the owner of the house to the north of 9230 Lotus. It's a family home at 9250 Lotus. So the history behind my family is that my grandfather purchased the property. My dad and my grandfather built the house. I grew up in the house. Now my son Eric, who was up here before, and his grandson live there. I have to echo what Dean has said, and I stand firm with him. But a couple other questions that I that I do have, which Nina brought up, is that in the proposal summary, Orchard Valley is requesting to use this 6-bedroom house as a group home for 8 unrelated adults with developmental disabilities. The bottom of the page is the intent of Orchard Village to move 6 ladies who are currently residents of another Orchard Village, Sela and Skokie. So I'm not sure where the 8 and the 6 come together. So you're saying that they've been honest with you in the past, okay?
We will ask both the petitioner and also our own staff person that question again when they come back up.
I think the two people are the staff personnel that'll be at the house.
We'll make sure that that's written in, but we'll ask them that question.
Okay, so the question I have is that you're asking for 6, but you're going in for 8.
No, that's a question we will ask and make sure, so that way, you'll have another chance if you want, if they answer incorrectly, but I believe it's gonna get,
Well, I think it needs to be clarified.
fine, so we'll
It will be
reconcile,
clarified.
that.
Well, can I ask a question on that clarification? Are you suggesting that the appreciable and material difference between the fabric of the community is whether there are 6 or 8 disabled women living in this house? Is that the question?
No. I'm just
So
asking
what
for-
are we asking?
I'm asking for clarity. Is it 6 or 8? I'm not making any kind of presumption here.
It'll
I'm
be
just
six-
asking
well,
what it is.
Okay, well,
And
we'll,
if
we'll,
it's
we'll
6,
have that-
then
that'll be answered,
then-
that'll be answered.
We'll
then
find
why
out.
isn't it written as 6?
We'll
Why
find
is
out
it
which
written
way it is.
as
We'll
8
find-
and 6? It seems to be pretty loose.
We'll
No,
find out.
it's not loose.
Seems to me,
We'll
from
find out.
my perspective,
Well, give us a
It
chance to
looks very
clarify
loose.
that.
It's not so secret. We'll ask,
It's not a
we'll ask,
secret.
we'll ask everybody in a moment,
Okay.
and we'll make
Okay.
sure it's written in.
So also, there's 2 PIN numbers between the house and the lot. And
There's a consolidation that the staff told us is going to be required as part of the permit process.
It'll
So
be
they-
one PIN number.
One new
one
PIN number.
well, the permit process is for what? For the construction or for this?
The site plan. There's
Site
two-
plan.
There's,
The county has been cleaning up their PIN numbers. And when these cases come before us, and there's 2 PIN numbers, we're required to combine it into one PIN number. So that's a county thing.
Okay, so I know that lot next door, I own a vacant lot right next door to that vacant lot. And I know my lot is buildable, and I believe that their lot that they currently own is buildable. So what would it take for, Orchard Village, do they have the right, let's say, to sell that lot to a developer, a builder, to put up a house in that location, or is it?
the answer simply is yes. If it is a buildable lot, it is saleable, then they would reject the idea of consolidation. They would keep the pins separate, and then they would sell that buildable lot off. They could do that.
They could do that. They could do that.
If it's
between-
if it's buildable, well, that's an assumption that you're asking us to make. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just, I guess what I'm asking is this gonna stay together? This consolidation is gonna stay together with Orchard Valley,
Orchard Village.
Yeah, Orchard Village.
pardon?
Orchard Village, sir.
Orchard Village, sorry. For Orchard Village is gonna keep that lot as part of,
We'll ask the petitioner that because other people have asked that same question, what their intent is. That's something we can't ordain other than make it part of this condition, not that they can't
Yeah, we'll
sell a
clarify
buildable
that
lot.
too.
But we'll clarify all that in a minute.
okay.
Then they can't sell it as easily. That's a different issue.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Sir, did you wanna come up?
You can bring the sleeping children.
Good evening, could you give us your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Mark Matthews. Live at 9338 Lotus. I'm actually the next block over, the last house on that block. Reason I was here because I got 2 little ones, and they also go to school, catch the bus and everything. My concern was, are they going to have some type of security, or are these people going to be well trained for these mental people to be coming through here because of the children going back and forth? That was basically my main concern. I was kind of misinformed because I was told that this was like a home for people who had felons or something like that. So once I learned that it was for a mental thing, I kind of was in favor for them to come, be in a beautiful home and stuff. I used to live in Evanston before I came here. I lived in this area for 10 years, 9 years. And before that, I used to live in Evanston with a place with a mental home, actually in Evanston on Dodge and Brummel, if anybody know. They got a whole row of townhouses with mental people, and you don't even know that they're there unless you go out the house and you see them standing in the corner. And then my next thing was, there's no buses that come. There used to be buses that come through there, but there's no buses. So with that being bigger buses in that corner turning, it's going to be very tight for parking and people going around. And I'm just sad to hear that, some of the things that people are saying about the mental issue, because in these houses, I've seen people come and go. Some of my kids go with some of your kids, and I'm not saying nothing, but I see some things going on. People living whoever they live, do whatever they got to do. But I'm just saying that I'm all in favor for them to be there and to do whatever they need to do to help mental challenged people. But I just want to be concerned of our children that's in the neighborhood, because we do have other crazy people that come in our neighborhood because they walk through there. I'm serious. They walk through there, and they even come on my porch.
That's the house I was talking about.
Yeah, they come on our porch, and they just talk. They try to talk to you, but you gotta try to communicate with them. But I try not to show no violence to them, and I just don't want them to show no violence to my children.
Well, there's a supervisor or someone, a custodian at the house with them, so.
With them, but I'm just,
We'll ask the question
We'll
about
ask. Right.
how much moving around the neighborhood, with or without aids, we're gonna ask that
right,
question.
because it's a cul-de-sac and everybody's walking.
It was a similar question
Right.
earlier about the safety of the residents and how they would be safe or not crossing
I think
driveways.
they'll be safe because if they probably gotta see my son in his little go-kart on the street.
It's okay, we're gonna ask the petitioner those questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wants to come up, have a question, comment? Yes, come up, please. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Selma Zukancic. I live at 9436 Lotus Avenue, so just down the street. The house that my neighbors were talking about earlier, I actually look at that house on Linder. It's across the alley from me, so I'm kind of familiar. You know, how it looks like having disabled people in your, you know, sometimes they'll walk out naked or things like that. But the reason being is, like, I don't have anything against, God forbid, you know, whatever, but my concern is, obviously you were saying that you have limited resources. So, at most you can have 2 staff members, you said if you're lucky. So how's one person, because I'm sure there will be times when you are only gonna have one person on staff. How is that one person going to control everybody and take care of 6 women? You know, we're very close to the highway. What if somebody, you know, escapes, goes out, slips out? I mean, that's a danger for them as well as for us. I think that this house is great for what you guys need, but the location is not. You can walk to the park. You can walk, even I mean, my children are now in college, so it's just my husband and I, but when they were, you know, smaller, I mean, you can really, it's a long walk to the park. You have to cross Central Street, you have to cross Church Street. You can walk to the bus. You can walk anywhere. You have to drive. So the only place that these ladies, if they do wanna go out, would be to walk down the neighborhood. How is one person gonna be able to manage 6 disabled people? That's my only concern. I just think that the house is great, the plans are great, I understand that, and I understand the fact that disabled people have to live somewhere. But I think you made a mistake with the location. It's gonna be a lot of headache, and where do we go when we encounter these problems? The other red flag for me was also, as my neighbor previously mentioned, you said the original house was bought and then surrounding the house. So, and you said then that you normally don't have any complaints, everything is running smoothly, you know, very few complaints. Yet, you ended up buying 4 surrounding houses. Why did those people leave? So that's my concern. But
Okay.
again, good luck to you. Obviously, there's nothing, you know,
Okay,
welcome
can
to
we-
the neighborhood, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna have the, excuse me, anyone else? Please.
Hi, my name is Kathy Polly, and I live at 5440 Foster, and I have just a couple questions. Basically not about the house, but basically about the way the way the village works. So I do understand that you had said that this is said and done, and I wish well for the residents. My question was, when the house was sold, and the house was sold to Orchard Village, which, my question is, knowing that it was sold to Orchard Village. And knowing that it's going to become a home, a group home, don't you think that it would be, can't even find the word, respectful to the neighborhood to kind of have this meeting to find out how the neighbors feel about the sale and what was happening in our neighborhood? Or is that,
Well,
because you said
the
it was-
village has, the village responsibility starts when Orchard Village applies for a permit. That's when the.
We have
village
no
gets
advance
involved.
knowledge of a buy-sell.
Or the
Oh,
ability,
okay,
or
well,
the ability
that's
to
what I wanna
control or
know, okay.
curtail of a private purchase.
Okay,
But we have no knowledge of it.
okay, okay.
It might,
That's
it
my
might be
question.
better, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
you're welcome. Anyone else, please?
So
Ms. Hodge, would you please? I don't know either.
we'll ask the petitioner, yeah, we'll ask the
We'll ask
petitioner or the staff and we'll find out. But those questions that you've asked, a lot of them, it seems to me, crystallize in how many people in the building, whether there's 6 residents and up to 2 staff, 8 total, or whether there can be up to 8 residents and 2 staff. So could you please clarify that
And
one
also
thing?
discuss their, their safety.
Yeah,
and-
being out in
the
the
neighborhood
community, but
and-
first, the number of people.
Legally, we could have 8. It is our intention to have 6. 6 ladies with their individual bedrooms is the intent, period. We have Orchard Village has no intent of plans, whatever, of putting 8 people in the house.
So if we approve tonight, what we are approving is a home for, not up to 8, but for 6 residents and up to 2 staff.
Yes.
Good.
Is it conceivably possible that the staff supervisor comes through? Yeah, and there's a 3rd person in the house?
And
Yes,
let-
that's possible,
Oh,
but
their visitors are okay, but there are not, there's no, we will not agree to more than 8 people living in the home, is that correct?
true. We're
The-
not asking for 8, we're asking for 6.
6 residents and up to 2 staff who could
But the
sleep
staff
overnight.
do not live there.
You said 1 person lives there overnight. Oh, there's no staff overnight?
But there is staff overnight.
Not living.
But they come.
I see.
They're on shifts.
I see, the staff that are there at night do not sleep there.
Correct.
So there's no more than 8 people overnight, 6 residents and up to 2 staff. And then there's additional staff that could visit during the day and additional visitors. Okay, very good.
Maintenance crew coming through, whatever.
Great.
Yeah.
That clarifies that. And then the other big question, it seemed, was the residents and their possible leaving the house. I don't think they're locked in, but, and the word escape was used, which was not a very kind word. But if they walk around the neighborhood, that is a possibility, and do they walk around unaided in the neighborhood?
As a generalization, these ladies are higher functioning. Think of the guy who packages your groceries at the Jewel. Think of the person who's cleaning the table at your restaurant. They tend to be higher functioning. A couple of the ladies are getting up in age. That doesn't mean that they're totally incompetent, but they need help in normal daily living.
So they will walk around the neighborhood unaided, but that is not an unsafe condition as far as you're concerned.
To the best of my knowledge, no.
And have you had any?
And they have a nice big yard to enjoy.
But have you had any problems, this goes to that other question, have you had any problems with any of your residents in any of your homes throughout the community walking out and either creating an unsafe situation or causing unsafety for themselves? Getting hit by a car at a driveway, anything like that?
To say never is a big word. Upon occasion, somebody walks out and doesn't tell staff, and then it's a big deal, like where is the person? But it's not like escapees or out of a cage, if you will.
Respectfully, I'm not sure what any of this has to do with our ability to evaluate the case that's before us.
I
I
agree
understand
too,
that
but-
it's interesting and of interest to the public, but I believe it's the public's responsibility to engage with their neighbor, to have those conversations. I'm sorry, but I am not interested in continuing to have a conversation about the ability of people who live in our community to function and move about within a home that they have every right to dwell in. It's distasteful and disconcerting, and I want to say it for the record.
Okay, so let's talk about the PIN numbers. We're consolidating these two PIN numbers into one, is that correct? And
Yes.
You're in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's a
Yes.
schedule as to when they do that. They
Yeah,
don't, it's not
we'll-
continuous,
We'll
but
tell you
yeah.
how it works.
Yeah.
We're working out with the county. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, again, as a reminder, we are not the, we don't make the final decision on these cases. These cases will go before the Board of Trustees for final vote and approval, and except for the parking determination. The site plan approval will go before the board. They meet on the first Monday and third Monday of every month. And anybody who's, we have a sign-up sheet with addresses or anything, we will notify you when this case will go before the board. Ready for a motion for 2023-28P parking determination? Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Who's up second? Mancello, thank you. Call for vote. Commissioner Osley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mancello?
Aye.
Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay, passed. On a site plan approval for case 2023-29P. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner, and second, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley?
A resounding aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Mancello?
Aye.
Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay, again, these cases will go before the Board of Trustees at a future date. Thank you for coming out tonight, and have a good evening, and drive carefully home.